you'll have seen in the report that they place a heavy emphasis on the poor recruitment processes and the fact that there was often a referral by a friend, and so the relationships inside the nursery between staff and management were very friendly. Now that's fine when the nursery is being well managed and things are going well, but it means that when things are going not well and people are concerned about things they're seeing or hearing, they find it really difficult to challenge. If the nursery had had good supervision processes in place, which would normally be a one-to-one between a regular discussion between a member of staff and the manager, that would have been a safe, private place in which to say, I'm really uncomfortable and I want you to do something about it. And the report is clear that that just wasn't there in Little Ted's, and it should have been.
Rupert Egan from ITN. You talk about the danger of carrying mobile phones within daycare settings, yet you make no recommendation to stop that happening. Why is that?
There is already a procedure in place, and there was prior to this incident, guidance and advice to all settings that people shouldn't be taking their mobile phones into work. They should be putting them in lockers and going, why would people need their mobile phones when they're actually dealing with children? That policy was in place before this incident. It clearly wasn't being followed in Little Ted's nursery, certainly not by Vanessa George. And as a reaction to her arrest, all early year settings were contacted once again, brought into a meeting and advised about the mobile phone policy. So that was already there, and it's been reinforced since this.
Would it have been helpful just to have reinforced it yourself? Well, I mean, you just made no mention of it, other than it was dangerous. I know it already exists, but it existed prior to when Vanessa George committed these offences. Is it not worth just flagging up again?
Well, we did. That's exactly what did happen. With the early years service, then brought every early years setting in Plymouth into a meeting and emailed advice about mobile phones. So that's been, that was in existence, and people have been reminded, and that's been reinforced.
Just to put it simply, Mr. Gould, would you support a ban on mobile phones in nursery settings?
I don't think they need. I would. I think the procedures that are already in place in people putting them in lockers and leaving them there. Well, I would certainly support that. But it's not the whole answer. If bad people will do bad things, and they will find ways around whatever procedures you have in place. You have to have. It goes back to this issue of management. You have to have good, strong management to make sure people follow those proper policies and procedures.
This is quite strong language for a serious case review. Does that reflect your surprise and indeed perhaps anger at what you found at the way Little Ted's was run?
Yes, the review clearly identifies that the lack of management, the lack of supervision, the lack of staff training at Little Ted's developed an environment in which this abuse could happen, and that should not have happened.
But what I'm trying to get at is a little bit more behind the report, what your personal view was as a man who's experienced in these issues about what you found in Little Ted's.
I think we would all say, I mean, I've been in children's services for nearly 36 years in one way or another, and I was very, very shocked by what I heard about this case.
You've had a number of community meetings and the latest to brief parents about the contents of this report. Can I ask what their reaction is to this review?
Certainly. Yes, we did meet with them, and we met them with last night, obviously, to give them the headline findings. They were clearly angry, they were disappointed and frustrated at the poor management of the nursery, and that the regulations did not pick this up. The regulating body, Ofsted, did not pick this up. They were also angry that staff didn't stop the behaviour of Vanessa George. They didn't feel able to challenge it. But I would say that several of the parents said after the meeting that the person whose fault it was is behind bars, and that's Vanessa George, and that they want to move on.